171 heads westbound at CP 162 in London, Ohio. You wouldn't be able to tell at first glance, but this is actually two 171s rolled into one. The first two locomotives, the C6M and a UP Ace, were a whole other 171 when it got to Watkins. But the last three engines were another 171 when it got to Watkins. The trains were just rolled into two since they didn't have another crew to bring out the second 171. .178 heads eastbound at Spring Valley Road, just east of London. This is also CP 160, the east end of the London siding. .170 heads eastbound at milepost 163 in London, passing by Casey's carryout drive-thru. On another beautiful morning, we observe NS Train 117, Sharonville to Bellevue, head eastbound at High Street, milepost 164 in London. At Summerford Road, milepost 169 on the Dayton District, we observe a BNSF-944CW leading long train 116 westbound towards Springfield. 116 is daily Bellevue, Ohio to Sharonville, Ohio, with a work stop in Watkins. .116 and 117 were originally running back and forth between Bellevue and Columbus, but they started taking over the duties of 26Z and 27Z, who were intermodal and a little bit of manifest, from Columbus to Sharonville. 116 and 117 handled those duties, and as a result, 26 and 27Z were unfortunately abolished. On this little segment of Whose Line Is This?, 178 heads eastbound at milepost 163 near Casey's, with a BNSF Warbonnet leader, followed by a UPGE trailing second. Sights like this of a war bonnet leading on the Dayton district have become rare. It's not as common as it used to be back in the 2000s and early 2010s, especially since PSR kicked in. But every now and then, the Dayton district will get a nice surprise like this. .116 is observed heading under the Conrail Tri-Light signals at CP-162 in London, Ohio. Leading .116 on this cold and chilly morning was NS-8102, painted in the Pennsylvania Heritage Unit paint scheme. We observe .116 heading westbound at Springfield, Ohio, CP-182. We were able to catch up with him again due to him getting caught by the milepost 172 defect detector at Plattsburgh for a hot bearing. Took up about 2 hours of his time. .171 heads westbound at CP-162. .171 today is powered by 3-944CWs. A common occurrence back in the day, though not as common now as all of them are getting rebuilt into C6Ms. Shortly behind 171, we see NS train 179 with a nice assortment of GE power. On the head end, an ES44AC and a BNSF ET44C4 as he speeds through London. .179 is usually a big train, anywhere between 100 and maybe 230 cars. On this day, it was no exception. The DPUs were actually a pretty nice pair as well. The first DPU, a Kansas City Southern ES44AC, paired with an NS-944CW. with the NYC Freight Depot in the center of the background, we observe NS Train 170 as he rolls over the former NYC PRR interlocking at Walnut Street in London. At 162 again, we observe 171 heading westbound. Leading the way is an NS SD70 ICC number 1250. Was rebuilt from an NS SD70 M-2. On a beautiful average temperature day, we see eastbound train 178 rolling by Birch Street, milepost 181 on the Dayton district. This train would have some issues a little ways later, as the second unit, a -944CW, would quit working, thus leading the train to only running about 20 miles an hour, which would explain why he's going so slow. On a warm night in London, NS 1174 leads Manifest 116 through London. At milepost 184 in Springfield, Ohio, we see empty Coke train 803 heading eastbound. This train came out of Middletown, Ohio after being unloaded the day before as 802 and is returning back east to Portsmouth, Ohio for more Coke loads. At East Street, milepost 182 in Springfield, the I&O Springfield job is seen sitting over where the old DT&I yard used to be, now the Tri-State lead. Coming up on the right is 179 with BNSF power. On another night next to Casey's in London, 116, the usual mix of intermodal and manifest, heads west. The surprise tonight was the CPGE rebuild. Very shiny too. "178 is seen eastbound crossing Walnut Avenue in London. He prepares to enter the siding to go around his counterpart 179, who's sitting on the main. A BNSF SD70 ACE brings up the rear of this short 178. "179 struggles to lug his heavy and long train out of London. It's all uphill up towards Plattsburgh. Then you start coasting downhill once you get there into Springfield. His train is over 2 miles long. Interesting, catching our eye, is the SD40-2 third out. At CP160, the east end of the London siding, a green signal warns us of approaching westbound Manifest 179, who's on his way after a crew change at CP150 about 10 minutes to our east, just outside of West Jefferson. A lone ES-44AC is seen acting as a rear DPU on 179. On another night at milepost 163 in London, we find 116 charging his way west through London. After 116 would arrive into Sharonville, a local would eventually leave Sharonville and take the CIT unit to AK Steel in Middletown. We observe 116 on another day as he heads westbound with a Dash 944 CW with an AC 44 C6M second, no intermodal, at milepost 164 Roberts Mill Road. .179 is seen heading westbound at milepost 169 about 2 hours after sunrise. Leading the way is a UP AC 6000 CW and the new flagless paint scheme that UP has been doing. .178 heads eastbound at milepost 152 in West Jefferson. The large amount of locomotives on the head end suggests that at least 6 of them are basically a power move. PRR is still running around almost double track from London all the way into Columbus, but Conrail sometime in the 80s or 90s singled it up between London and Columbus as Buckeye Yard, which now Buckeye is now closed and all the tracks have been ripped out. An EMD SD70M-2 trails third on 170 as it makes its way through London, Ohio at CP 162 under a nice evening sky. Empty Coke train 803 heads eastbound into London. He'll stop ahead at 160 because of a stuck brake that the defect detector at Plattsburgh caught him for. He's emptied Coke loads out of AK Steel in Middletown, bound for the Coke plant down south of Portsmouth. A short westbound 171 heads west through London. He met this 803 at 160 and ran around him through the siding. .170 heads eastbound at 162 in London with a rare Dash 9 trio. By 2024-2025, all the Dash 9s will be turned into C6Ms. At milepost 167, we see 179 heading westbound up the hill out of London. 179 on the head end is being led by two GEVOs, an NS and a BNSF. 167 was at one point a town called Myers, with a grain elevator which stored up to about 80 cars, even some smaller yard tracks. There's no pictures or photos of the town of Myers, but there are records of it. At Roberts Mill Road, milepost 164, 170 is seen heading east in the last bit of light for the day. An old Dash 9 still on the job, as many of them still are before being turned into C6Ms, leads the way, with a shiny C6M, what it's to become in the future, trailing behind. A short and quick NS 171 is seen heading westbound under the London nighttime sky, with the NS 4001, nicknamed the Sonic Bonnet, leading the way. Eastbound Manifest 178 is observed heading through London. Surprisingly, only 79 cars and no DPU. On this day, he was being led by 2 UPGEs. After 178 cleared, 116, who had been sitting in the siding for the last hour, then comes out under the Tri-Light Bridge. Leading the way is a BNSF unit. If you notice it, there's X's on the side of the locomotive. Not sure if that was by employees or by hoodlums who had nothing better to do. On another evening, we observe NS train 178 heading eastbound, beginning to roll downhill into London at milepost 167. We observe 178 heading eastbound through the darkness in Plattsburgh, Ohio at milepost 172 on the Dayton district. Spring Valley Road, CP 160 on the Dayton district, NS 170 flies east out of London in the first morning light. CP-162 we observe 170 heading eastbound. This is the site of the former diamond between the PRR and NYC. The old war cemetery in Plattsburgh, Ohio, does provide an open area for shooting trains. The hill over here was famous for shooting Conrail trains and a favorite of rail fans. Here we see 178 cresting over the hill and eventually through this cut, with a special surprise on the rear. The surprise that we mentioned on the rear of 178 is the shiny and freshly painted 1069, the NS Virginian Heritage Unit. On another night in London, Ohio, we're treated to another special sight as 171 heads west through London with a Faramex Ace trailing second. Here's a very rare occurrence. 178 heading east through Plattsburgh, but with CSX power. The lead unit was ex-Conrail at one point. The Dayton district doesn't normally see CSX power unless it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, or whenever grain trains come out of Mechanicsburg, Ohio, and have to run around the 182 corridor to get back on the I&O tracks. But this one was a special occasion. Bringing up the rear was a Union Pacific GE. .802 is seen heading westbound into London in the golden hour of the day. .802 rarely has a foreign leader, but on this day he did. This train is daily coke loads out of Portsmouth to AK Steel in Middletown. On yet another night in London, Ohio, we observe NS Train 171 as he heads west. This night with the NS 1800, nicknamed the Yellow Bonnet, leading. That and his consist of a UP-EMG, a UP-GE, and 2 NS-GEs did bring some rail fans out to catch him. On another cold and chilly morning, we observe NS Train 178 as he heads eastbound through London. This train had been tied down the night before around Moraine, and had gotten a new crew about 2 hours before. Eastbound Manifest 178 prepares to roll downhill into London for a running meet with westbound train 171. 178 will go into the siding, while 171 will keep the main. A short 171 flies westbound out of London and glides over Oak Run. At the intermediate signal, milepost 169 on the Dayton district, we observe M16 coming westbound out of his hilly climb out of London. M16 is an extra version of 116. It can either be manifest, that was left over in Bellevue, that didn't go out on the regular 116, or intermodal that didn't get into Watkins Yard by the time the regular 116 left. At Glade Run Road, the intermediate signal at milepost 158 is showing a high green for westbound 179, being led by a BNSF-944CW. About 15 minutes later, 178, who had been sitting in the London siding waiting for his counterpart 179 to come up, is now rolling east. He's having an issue with his DPU and the EOT, so he can only run at about 30 miles an hour. .116 is observed heading westbound through London at night again, this time with a special treat, a rare SD70M-2 in the lead. Norfolk Southern has brought about 46 of them out of storage. At milepost 184 in Springfield, Ohio on Bechtel Avenue, we see that a little bit of a small crowd has turned out waiting on a train. The train in question is NS-171. He has an ex-CMQ, Central Maine and Quebec unit, trailing second. NS had purchased 36 CEFX units. 2 of them were ex-Central Maine and Quebecs, and one just happened to be on this train. At Brooks Siding, mileposts 176 and 175, a track repair crew is working on the siding at 175 as eastbound manifest train 170 approaches on the main line. While the track crew is out there, 171 had to run 20 miles an hour with his head end only past the work site, but then was able to speed up as he got past it.